So this is the WA47 Jr from Warm Audio. It's a super budget friendly microphone, costs just a couple of $100s. And this is a U47. Now, good ones of these cost multiple thousands of pounds or dollars. So I thought it'd be an interesting comparison to see just how close that cheap Warm Audio budget mic could get to a proper tube U47. So let's find out. We'll record the lead vocal of the chorus on both microphones. We'll keep the rest of the chain the exact same so that it's a fair comparison. And then we'll compare the raw takes, but then we'll also do a little bit of mixing and we'll see just how close that cheap budget microphone can get to the multi-thousand-pound U47. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are on these two microphones as well. So please drop a comment and let me know.
Take us back to the day we were stood 2 feet apart, sharing smiles, but now you share my heart. Now I've got to admit that I wear it on my sleeve. No one's ever been the one I need. Take us back to the day we were stood 2 feet apart, sharing smiles, but now you share my heart. Now I've got to admit that I wear it on my sleeve. No one's ever been the one I need.
Okay, so we've heard the raw takes from both of those microphones. Let's see what they sound like once we start to add some processing and get them into a mix. So what we'll do is I'll talk you through the processing we've got on both of the microphones, and then we'll play them both side by side so you can hear the differences. Don't forget to drop a comment, let me know which one you think sounds best. So we'll start with the genuine 47, and I have to say, personally, I think this microphone is absolute perfection. It just suits most male voices really, really well, and it always does a great job on my vocal. Now, in terms of processing, honestly, I didn't need to do too much. It sounded great right off the bat. However, in this particular song that was singing, there's quite a lot of E and A sounds. And what that has a tendency to do is create what are called whistle tones, whistle overtones in a vocal. Now, there's absolutely nothing you can do to eliminate these. It's to do with the frequency, the sounds that you're singing, and also the vocal cords and the vocal folds. And someone that's more qualified will be able to talk about it in more detail than I can. However, microphone choice can absolutely play a part in how pronounced they are. And in this particular song, I was hearing a few whistle overtones that needed to be dealt with. On the U47, I literally just put Soothe 2 up, and on the default setting, it sounded pretty good. I just tweaked it a little bit from there. I just added a little bit more around 2K, and it's dealing with those really, really well. So didn't have to mess around too much at all. After that, we're going into some EQ. I'm adding some brightness at 10K. 47s can be quite dark, so I'm just adding some air, and then adding a little bit of upper mids as well. So around 2K, just adding a slight smidge of that just for a little bit of extra presence, and then a decent wallop of lows as well, so about 8-9 dB of around 100 hertz, and then just filtering out some of the super sub lows where you just get some of that rumble. After that, we are just going into some compression, the usual chain that I would use for lead vocal. So first it's the 1176 Rev A Blue Stripe, and then into the LA2A. We're getting somewhere between 6 and 10 dB of compression on the 76, and then somewhere between 3 and 5 on the 2A. I'm also putting this through a plate reverb as well. This is a Lexicon 480 plate, 2 seconds decay time, big pre-delay. Again, just a standard reverb that I would tend to use for vocals. Now if we move on to the Warm Audio 47. Now this doesn't sound bad by any stretch. It's a really good microphone, especially when we factor in the price. However, I did find myself having to do a lot more to get it to where I wanted it to be in the mix. Now, one thing I did notice in the Warm Audio mic is that it is way more present and forward in the upper mids, in that sort of 2 to 5K range. Probably because this is a FET microphone. the Real 47 is a tube mic. Real 47s are super smooth in the upper mids and the highs, and that's one of the reasons that they're so popular, because they never sound harsh. There's never any sign of sibilance. They're just super smooth and well balanced. The Warm 47's definitely brighter. Some people might call it bright and present. Some people might call it harsh. I'll let you decide. But one thing that did in this track on this vocal is that those whistle overtones were a lot more pronounced. So I had to be a bit more detailed with soothe. I'm boosting a little bit more to get more of that reduction. I've particularly had to put a bit more in the 2K range. And after that, I was still finding frequencies that needed dealing with. So I've pulled up FabFilter Pro Q3 and I'm notching out some 2.5K. I'm also notching out some 4.3K. And then there was also something not very nice happening around 1.5K, just kind of like a ringing sound that I didn't really like. So I'm ducking some of that out, but it's also set to dynamic mode, so it takes more out when we need it to do that. The next thing that we're going into then is some EQ, fairly similar boost. I'm not boosting anywhere near as much as I needed to on the 47 because this is a brighter microphone, but I'm just adding a little bit of air, just over 1 dB, and I'm putting a little bit more of 2K in, again not much, 0.6 of a dB, and then a good chunk of lows, again around 100, and just filtering out some of those sub lows as well. After that, we're then going into the compressors. We've got the 1176 Rev A, we've got the LA2A, but then after that I did find that it needed some de-essing, so I am going into this de-esser just to reduce some of that sibilance. So let's take a listen. We'll start with the Real U47. So even after just a super quick mix, that sounds pretty much perfect to me. It's really well balanced. It sounds great. Let's have a listen to the Warm Audio 47 now.
Take us back to the day we were stood 2 feet apart, sharing smiles, but now you share my heart. Now I've got to admit that I wear it on my sleeve. No one's ever been the one I need.
Okay, so honestly, that is a perfectly good and usable vocal that you could use for a fraction of the price. However, my personal opinion, I do have to be honest and say that I think the Real U47 does sound better, particularly on my voice on this song. That's not to say that that couldn't be reversed in some other scenario. Absolutely, that could happen. But right now in this situation, I think the U47 does sound better. It's softer in the mids. The Warm Audio is a little bit more harsher in the mids. And I also think that the Real 47 takes the compression way better. It just sounds really, really smooth. Whereas the Warm Audio microphone has probably got a bit less compression on it, to be honest. But I was finding as I was adding that compression, it was just pumping and pushing back at me a little bit more and just sounding a bit too aggressive. In some cases, that might be exactly what you want, but in this one, it wasn't. And so I was finding myself, I couldn't compress as hard as what I could with the Real 47. Whether it's worth spending thousands of pounds on, though, that's something that nearly everyone is going to have a different opinion on. And honestly, there's no right or wrong. It's whatever works for your situation. Now, if you're a singer-songwriter or you're in a band or releasing music in any way, shape or form, then it's very likely that you're going to need to have an EPK. Your EPK is the document that you would send out to radio presenters to get your music played on the radio, to bloggers, to interviewers, to magazines, to feature your music and to give you some promotion. And as a result, if your EPK sucks, then these people that you send it to won't even listen to your music and they won't even give it a chance. They're just going to delete your email out of their inbox forever. And if that's the case, then you are 100% missing out on opportunities to get your music heard and to grow your fan base. Now, in order to help with this, I've designed an EPK template that you can use and it is completely free. If you follow this template, then you can get an EPK that looks incredible, but most importantly, contains all of the relevant information that you're going to need to get these people to listen to your music and just to even get a foot in the door. And best of all, it's super quick and easy to use, and you can have your EPK up and running, ready to go, literally within minutes. So if you like what I'm talking about here, there's a link in the description below for you to start using this EPK template. It's completely free, and it will guarantee that you get a great looking EPK with all of the information that you need in order to get people to listen to your music and feature it.